I spoke to Jewish Labor MP Michael Danby a little earlier about those comments from his colleagues that he disagrees with, and I asked him why there shouldn't be any recognition of a Palestinian state when Israel has failed to make any real progress on peace in recent times.
It's not good enough for Gareth Evans and Bob Carr and Bob Hawke to pontificate from here in Australia that we should unilaterally make a move that actually gives no leverage to either side to participate in further direct negotiations. All three leaders, Netanyahu, Turnbull and Shorten, all said the best way of solving this problem is direct negotiations between the parties. And if you give away one of your major cards or major chips beforehand, what incentive is there for the other party to negotiate the rest of the deal?
How do you explain it? Are you embarrassed that today, you know, when we're looking at the media with the first Israeli PM to visit Australia, you've got a very strong op-ed from the Malcolm Turnbull, the Labor Party's opposition about supporting Israel, condemning some of the UN actions, and then you have two former Prime Ministers and two former Foreign Ministers on your side of politics saying, or basically walking away from that bipartisanship when it comes to Israel.
General MacArthur had a great wisdom. Old soldiers just should fade away. Fade away. Penny Wong and Bill Shorten's views on this are much more balanced. They've been extremely fair in saying that there should be direct negotiations between the parties, and I am entirely at ease with the views of the Labor Party. I don't accept that a bunch of predictables who've been antagonistic and who think that there should be unilateral concessions represent the current views of the opposition. Don't focus on the minor issues, focus on getting the parties back together, and also have some perspective that Australia is an important economy in the world, but we don't decide from Sydney, as Bob Carr thinks he does, that where the boundaries of a negotiated settlement between the Israelis and Palestinians are going to be.
Mr Danby, I don't think settlements are a minor issue, but what I want to get to is that Benjamin Netanyahu had an opportunity today to rule out this idea of a one-state solution and reaffirm his commitment to a two-state solution. I know because I asked him the question and it was very pointed, and he chose not to do that. So what should we read into it? That he's no longer committed to a two-state? He's using the cover of Trump to perhaps pursue a more aggressive agenda?
Look, no sensible Israeli leader would not support the two-state solution. If you want to have a Jewish and democratic state, it's got to be next to a Palestinian state. If you have one state, I mean, the whole idea of Israel was to have a Jewish majority after the experiences of the Jews during the Second World War. And he has committed to it in the past, he's committed to it publicly. I'm sorry he didn't answer you in the way, Laura, the definitive way that I think you should have been answered. And maybe he's like Trump, trying to create leverage on the Palestinians to come back to direct negotiations and to say that they are in favour of a two-state solution. What Erekat said yesterday was very good. I applaud that, and I think that it's clear. Look, if you're an Israeli, I've got family and relatives over there, 80% of them support a two-state solution if they could believe Palestinians were serious about negotiations. The problem, Laura, is you've got Hamas in control of Gaza, officially declared by the Australian Parliament as a terrorist organisation, and the other bloke, Abbas, is 12 years into a 6-year term.
The other problem is, though, and you point to the support for a two-state solution among Israelis in Israel, what about settlements? These are deliberately provocative, and whilst Benjamin Netanyahu and others, and you no doubt, will argue that it's not the biggest issue, the biggest issue is Palestine not recognising your right to exist, this is a main obstacle to even getting anywhere in peace negotiations. So what is the justification for it?
The 80% of the people who live across the 1967 Green Line can be accommodated by swapping land one for one by absorbing 5% of the suburbs of Jerusalem. 80% of all of those settlers that are the problem. So settlements is one issue, refugees is one issue, Jerusalem is another issue, and end of fighting is the main issue. All reasonable people can achieve a solution with the settlements and by land swaps. This is what Bill Clinton envisaged in 2000. This is what Olmert offered to Abbas in 2008.
Land swaps are not happening though, Mr Danby. We are seeing settlements. We saw the Knesset just a couple of weeks ago legalise 4,000 settlements on private Palestinian land. How is that not provocative? How is that not an impediment to peace?
There are 4,000 buildings. In one settlement called Amona. And that was because the week before they sent 3,000 police to dismantle the settlement. And so the current narrow right-wing majority in the Knesset voted that ex post facto, after the fact, that this land should be legally available to those people who had bought it. Now, I don't support the acquiring of private property by the state forcibly in any country, and I'm confident that the Israeli Supreme Court, as the Attorney General said, they're a society of laws. There's no Supreme Court in the surrounding countries that will overrule a government. I'm confident that they will do their democracy will work out just as ours does here, with a balance between the High Court, the Parliament and the media.
We will see. It's been a long time coming. It seems it's a long road ahead. Michael Danby, as always, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Laura, very much for hearing my point of view.